A very quick video. Wasn't going to do a video, but I saw a few things worth mentioning. We got two COT reports this week. We have dealers have added quite a bit to their short position. So it's very much in the not bullish category in terms of COT. I wouldn't say bearish necessarily, but definitely at least neutral. In the options market, index options, they're still holding more puts than they were, but if we start to see this fall off, considering what COT is doing, considering some of the other things I'm going to show you, I'm thinking roughly around July OPEX. But as of now, I'm still in the bullish camp. I did get some ads in on Monday, not as many as I wanted to. I had bids lower. I ended up chasing a little bit on Monday to get some more ads put in. I'm at a decent level of long exposure, and I'm staying at that level. And I'm not bearish. Sometimes people get confused. I'll show a few bearish things and they'll think I'm like heavily bearish. I'm still bullish. I'm still bullish here. Yeah, still bullish. But I'm just seeing a few things that I want you guys to watch out for in the market, considering COT has made a pretty considerable change this week. Pretty heavy block trade selling on Friday. This is something, I don't know if I've talked about this before, oftentimes before, that some of the bigger sell-offs we've seen in risk assets was when gold was set up in a nice buy setup. And gold is starting to set up again as a decent buy. Part of the reason I went full cash earlier was gold was set up and rallying. Gold had set up as a nice long and was starting to rally. And now ended up being a giant bull trap. However, it's setting up again as another potential long. Full disclosure, I hate gold. I don't like gold. I don't like to trade it that much. But when it sets up in a really attractive long position, I'll take the trade. Like, it has to be really good, though. I have to really like the trade. But I hate gold. It's one of the worst long-term investments you could ever make. But unfortunately, over the years, many people have used it as a long-term investment. And it's terrible for that. But it can set up. People get very bearish this thing sometimes, and it sets up as a nice long when that happens. And that is happening again. And that is when I get them. This is one of the things that will get me nervous about risk, is when gold sets up as an attractive long. Before a lot of the biggest sell-offs we've seen, let's overlay it real quick. Yeah, I don't know so much about before March. I can't remember what the setup was like on gold then. I know we were rallying into that on gold, but the one to me that stands out the most, that I remember the most, was back in here. This was I think this was like record speculator shorts in gold. We're not seeing like record speculator shorts or anything here, but pretty favorable COT setup. But yeah, this is where, I get the most nervous about stocks, is when gold has been sold off pretty heavily and it's set up as a nice long, and there's other confirming factors. And I'm definitely not bearish. Like I said, I'm not bearish stocks. I'm pointing out a few things that I think we need to watch out for. This is gold COT dealers, and yeah, they are quite long, almost as long as they were back in this 2018 period. So it's a pretty nice setup there. Producers are similar to dealers in equity futures, and that's what I watch the most in COT. I found that in most markets to give the most reliable back tests. In general, when dealers or producers get heavily net long or heavily net short, that's where I get interested in COT. When they're kind of meandering mid-range here, like it's not as useful, but the extremes is where dealer positioning is useful. Hedge fund exposure starting to get a little bit worrisome here. This is seasonality. We're set up for a pretty nice seasonal period. Actually, one of the best seasonal periods is coming up. So, I think with the momentum we have and with how people did get pretty bearish very recently, we could continue to rally. And I think we're at under 4,300 on SPX. I think there's a decent chance we see 4,300 by July OPEX, which is the time that I think we need to consider caution. Again, every OPEX consider caution, but this one, if we see hedging get removed, if you see Index option put call ratio dropped back down again. I have not changed my positioning. All I did was add this week, but it come up on July OPEX, especially if we do get that rally over 4,300. I will definitely consider at a minimum locking in quite a bit of profit and maybe more. We'll see. There was a pretty low print this week on DIX, but it's just a single low print. Nothing to be concerned about. It's when you get clusters of these low prints that it can be a problem. It not necessarily is always a problem, but it can be a problem. FANGDIX has cooled off a lot. That's what this is. I don't know. It's showing here. 40. It's 40 was the print on Friday. Okay, and let's back to COT. So anyways, I just wanted to throw this out real quick. I'm still bullish. I think we're going to continue to rally. I think we're going over 4,300. I didn't put together a probabilities page this time, but I didn't really intend to do a video this week. Yeah, but there's a few things just to watch. Just be careful of a few things coming up, especially around July OPEX when seasonality does start to shift back. Seasonality does start to shift. This is basically mid-July, right around OPEX. And yeah, I know seasonality is a secondary or a tertiary indicator. It's worked pretty good the last few years. What you're looking at here is a back test. This is a back test. And you know I like back tests because it's quantifiable and it's a lot better than some anecdotal story people put in like a trading book that when you test it, it's actually wrong, but many people believe some of these things. And I'm going to eventually talk about some of that. There's a lot of stuff out there that's repeated on the internet that is completely false because it was put in a trading book. A lot of traders believe it. It's false, though. It is completely not true. That's why you have to get into some back testing and either do back tests yourself or, Sentiment Trader puts out back tests every day. One criticism I have of Sentiment Trader is he tends to be bearish, like a lot. But he does throw out a lot of back tests every day. And over time, if you use a little intuition, you can kind of weed through the bearish perspectives and you realize that you look at enough back tests, you start to realize that there's a lot of people that are completely misguided, unfortunately, because they're believing anecdotal stories and they haven't back tested anything. Anyways, that was a little rant at the end of the video here. Stay long, manage your long positions. I know it's probably not a great place to look for a new long. If anything, you should be maybe trimming here pretty soon. But just watch these metrics that I've shown today. Like if these things improve, just keep staying long. And typically, in most cases, it's best to wait for price to take you out. And price definitely price is not showing us any reason to sell here at all. So stay long, but watch these things. And I'll see you in the next video.